After a long 3-week wait, the election results are in and they're official. But how long until we get a government? National's loss of 2 seats means Christopher Luxon and ACT must work with Winston Peters to form the next government. And what about those recounts in Tamaki Makaurau and Mount Albert? Also Nelson, we're watching as well. The incoming Prime Minister Christopher Luxon is with us this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Ryan. Good to be with you.
Good to have you here. You must have been relieved by what Winston said yesterday, were you?
In what regard?
With regards to David Seymour saying, oh, don't worry, I didn't not message him back because I didn't like him. It's just because I thought it was a scam.
No, all I'd just say is, you can see from all three leaders there's a massive intent to actually form a government, to make sure we move through it as quickly as we possibly can. And it's great to see that those two will be, all three of us will be meeting up at some point.
Yeah, so is there something in the diary for the three of you to get together?
Look, at this stage, we just still got to accelerate and crack on with the arrangements and the conversations that we need to have this week. But yes, that's our intention, is all to come together at some point.
Right. So you said that the previous couple of weeks have been about relationship building. So was that relationship building between you and Winston and you and Seymour, as opposed to the three of you together or the two of them together? Yeah,
look, correct. I mean, it's really been us, me talking with the teams and the leaders from each of those respective parties, and making sure that we can understand, what each other needs in a government, so that we actually can make sure that we form a strong and stable government. And what's common in those conversations is that there's very strong alignment around rebuilding the economy, restoring law and order, delivering better health and education, the things that we all campaigned on.
Okay.
The means by which we deliver those things may be slightly different. And yes, there'll be some trade-offs that will be needed from all three parties, but at the end of the day, I'm very confident we'll form a good government.
Your trade-offs, though, have lines in the sand. I asked you on election night, particularly about your tax policy, would you alter any aspects of that? And you gave an assurance that you wouldn't, or you'd resign. Do you still stand by that?
Yeah, we're going to deliver tax relief for low and middle income New Zealanders.
In the form that you proposed at pre-election?
I pretty much think so, yeah. I think
pretty much? Right. Well, pretty much meaning there are some aspects you might have to negotiate on.
Well, we're very clear that we can deliver it, because we actually, as I said, we've raised revenue, we've got cost savings coming from other wasteful spending.
So none of those things will change?
I can't see that happening, no. We want to make sure we deliver tax relief for low and middle income New Zealanders.
Is anyone wanting to change aspects of it, like the foreign buyers?
Again, not getting into any of that whatsoever, because those are conversations we want to be able to have with goodwill, good faith with each party, and we're having that, and it's progressing well.
Do you have there are talks, rumours you have a draft agreement with the ACT Party already. Is that fair to say you've got something lined up with them and still working on the other?
Again, just not going to get into any of it. What we've got is, some good conversations that have happened with both parties. Okay. I think we're making good progress. There is good intention.
All right. This is the slightly. This is where I think people will get slightly concerned. Is that we are nearly 3 weeks from our election date.
Yep.
We now have all of the results, and you still can't tell me a date at which you will actually sit in the same room with the two people you intend on being in government with. Is that not a bit of a failure after 2 weeks of relationship building?
No, I disagree. I think the reality is that it took us 3 weeks in this country to count our votes. 1/5 of our votes were uncounted.
Yeah, but that's done now. That's done. You've
been
relationship building, and you still haven't got a play date.
But we have clarity now that we didn't have before Friday 2 o'clock. And I think that's a different issue, that we should be asking some questions as to why does it take so long to get special votes counted in this country. So we don't have clarity faster and sooner, and we should be doing everything we can 24/7 to process those votes as fast as possible. We'll pick that up in government and on the other side. But, we are moving pretty quickly through this. And I think, as I said, the momentum is good and positive. We've got to close out and crack on and have a big week this week, and we'll see where we get to.
Close out, so you mean like finalise this week?
We'll keep pushing on and getting it done ultimately.
Erica Stanford was on the show on Friday. She said that you have had no chats with any of your MPs yet about potential ministerial portfolios. When would you expect that stage might happen?
Well, first and foremost, we have to form a government with the two other parties, and that's making good progress. Then we actually get into ministerial appointments, and that can happen once we make that decision. That can move through pretty quickly. Get sworn in, obviously, and then we get moving with it.
Okay. Will you get your mini budget by Christmas, do you think?
Yeah, that's still our intention. Yeah, because we'll have what we call the half-year economic fiscal update will come through before Christmas, and that will be the time to accompany it with, some quick actions and decisions that we can take.
Are you willing to wear, as Prime Minister, the largest protest this country has seen, 5 or 10 times the Springbok tour, according to Willie Jackson?
Yeah, I saw those remarks on the weekend, and the reality for us is that, as we campaigned, a referendum on treaty principles isn't something that we've campaigned on, and not something that we support. But I'm not sure those comments were very helpful or meaningful, frankly, in that regard.
Is he barking up the wrong tree? Has he got nothing to worry about because, as you've said, it's not something you support, so therefore it won't happen? Well,
the bottom line is that we want to make this country more unified, not less unified, and I think those kinds of remarks are unhelpful.
Yeah, but you've said a couple of times now that you don't support the treaty referendum. That's a different thing from saying whether it will happen or not under your watch, right? So which of those two things are you...
Well, again, we've been very clear about that in the election campaign. It's not something we support.
No, but is it something you would do?
Again, not something we support.
Yeah, but you see what I mean? They're different things.
Yeah, no, I hear you. But what we're saying very clearly is it's not something that we support as a national party. It's not something we're going to be. It's not something we're going to be advocating for or believing that should happen. We think it's divisive.
Again, is a different thing from whether it's something you would do.
Yeah,
because
but again,
you're forced to by your partners.
Yes, but in fairness, I'm not going to get into the details of conversations that are happening with our coalition partners. But what I'm saying to you is that it's not national party policy. We think it would be divisive and unhelpful.
All right. Let's talk about a couple of other issues, including the Pacifica representation in Parliament. A couple of stories over the weekend, particularly from some Pacifica academics.
Yeah, I saw this.
Who have said that they're in for a rough ride under a National Act government and they are worried about cutbacks to sort of Pacifica programs. How many Pacifica MPs do you have?
At this stage, we haven't been able to bring two in. We've had Angie Nicholas, who did a really great job in Te Atatu, and we've also had Agnes Lohene, who's highly ranked on our list ranking. And just by the way that the count has finally come through, both of them have actually just fallen short. So, but what I just reassure everyone, because I saw those remarks as well, and I was quite concerned about that because I just don't think that's a fair representation. We've spent a lot of time in the Pacific community through this campaign. If you think about how we made progress in places like Mangere and Manurewa, it's actually, we think we got quite a lot of support from young Pacifica in particular, and I want everyone to know that we're going to be a government for everybody. And actually, when you talk to the Pacific community about their concerns and issues, it's the same issues: cost of living, health, education, law and order. And so I think we're going to be a government that will deliver for them.
Yeah, so there's about 380,000 people of Pacifica heritage in New Zealand right now, and as you said, you haven't got any Pacifica MPs. So let's talk about some of the policies then. Do you still intend, or are you still open to cutting the Ministry for Pacific Peoples?
Well, what we're saying is we're expecting delivery out of all government agencies, Pacific Peoples Ministry as well as every other ministry and agency in government.
So you wouldn't get rid of it?
No, we don't believe we should get rid of it at all.
What Act does though, right?
I know, but again, without going into coalition conversations in detail...
Is that something you'd rule out then for those young Pacifica voters that went with you? You said that you owe them your vote?
Yeah, again, our position on the ministry is that we don't see a need to stop it. But what we do see a need for is not just that ministry, but every ministry, to make sure it's delivering efficiently and effectively for New Zealanders.
Okay, so for those
when you have $40,000 farewell parties, that's not great.
Fair enough, but for those staff who are working there at the moment, they can rest assured they're not going to be gutted.
No, I mean, but the public service needs to understand there is going to be delivery. That's what we want from the public service. We expect the CEOs to lead those organisations to deliver outcomes for all New Zealanders, okay. Pacifica, non-Pacifica.
The other thing that this particular academic I'm referring to was talking about when talking about the Pacific people being in for a rough ride under a National Act government was specific Pacifica health and education policies. So they're policies that are specifically designed and targeted towards Pacifica youth and those who are accessing healthcare. Will you commit to not cutting any of those? Well,
again, as long as they're working. I mean, we will support things that are working. But if things are not working and they're not getting results, I'm sorry, we're stopping those programs. That's the reality of it. Because there's just no point putting taxpayer money behind things that aren't working. So we want to partner with the Pacifica community on a range of issues, particularly in health and education. We'll continue to do that. And if they're working and those programs are delivering good results and getting great outcomes, we'd want to put more money behind it. Yeah.
More money. Okay, because doesn't that go against this whole argument that you made before the election, which is that you shouldn't have race-based funding for anything?
Well, that we expect core government agencies to deliver for all New Zealanders, no doubt about it. But if there's specific tasks that ministry is doing, we expect them to be well-defined, well-framed, and actually deliver outcomes. But I just put to you, $40,000 farewell parties ain't cutting it.
All right, and what about aid to Pacific countries? Is that something you would touch? you would hack back on? I mean,
No. We need to continue to deepen and strengthen our partnership with our Pacific Island neighbours and countries that we're partners with, and that's why it's not. I'd love to be at PIF because I think it's a really important forum, the Pacific Island Leaders Forum, and there's a lot of things to discuss in the region that are really important. So, no, we want to make sure we're better partners. We're deepening and strengthening that relationship with the Pacific big time.
All right. Thank you very much for your time this morning.
Appreciate it.
Great to have you on. Good luck with this week.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hopefully you'll have a few meetings and get a few things done.
Working hard. Yep.
Yeah. Were you kept awake last night with fireworks?
I had a neighbour who had some fireworks, but no, it's all good fun.
Okay. Very good. Thanks for coming in. It's 6 minutes away from 7 now. That's the incoming Prime Minister, Christopher Luxon.